What's your earliest memory of that?
We remember small things like being in a shower with Dave.
All right, let's not talk about that. I was talking about the show. So let's
Sup, sobers. So pretty much everyone in my immediate family and close inner circle of friends, they all know that if something happens to me, the first person that they need to call is Mary-Kate Olsen. What? Huh? Why? Exactly. It doesn't make any sense.
We don't know. Please don't call Mary-Kate Olsen.
So why is it that when Heath Ledger was found unresponsive by his mysterious masseuse, was Mary-Kate Olsen the first person that was called? Not once, not twice, but 3 times before the police were ever notified. Well,
let's go. Alcohol.
all right, welcome back to Sobering Stories, everybody. This week we've got another question-filled episode. I'm super stoked to talk about it. Very interesting stuff. And there's been so much misinformation that's been spread around about the whole Heath Ledger story. I just had to look into it. And I already knew I was going to cover this one, but after talking about David Carradine last week and the whole Randy Quaid thing and him talking about Heath Ledger, it just made me want to dive into it ASAP. And plus, I've had tons of requests from you guys, so it just made sense. But before we get into that, I wanted to mention our sponsor for the day. Our sponsor for the day is actually 404 Links because, well, I mean, as frustrated as you get when you hit a 404 link, when you're trying to find something and you say are looking for the 911 phone call audio clip from the Heath Ledger situation, and you just can't find it, and then you finally do. You finally get it. But then it says, oh, sorry, no longer found. And then you go to the archives and it's still not found. Man, the frustration. But at least those 404 links, they're usually kind enough to say, yo, I'm sorry, but the link you're looking for is not here. So just go, sorry. So at least they have the forethought to say that. We got to remember the details in society, you guys, because it's the little things that matter. And to be quite frank with you guys, when I hit a link like that, it just drives me even harder to look even further and deeper and come up with new ways of searching for it. Typically, that'll result in some better results than what I was originally looking for. That doesn't deny the fact that there's still things that I look for that just... For real though, I freaking hate those links. Business item number, I think 2. Who's your favorite Joker from all of the different Batman series? Any Batman series, any Joker variety, it does not matter. Drop it in the comments. For me, that's just one of those questions that requires way more than a simple answer. But for a lot of people, it's inarguably Heath Ledger and his portrayal of the Joker character in the movie The Dark Knight. And I've got to say, Heath Ledger's Joker was legendary. Like 100%, hands down, one of the scariest, most frightening, unhinged Joker characters that have ever come across the screen. And our understanding of the Joker from this point forward would forever change, giving rise to all these different Joker spin-off movies and leading to these even darker versions of the Joker. So you could argue that even though there may be better portrayals of the Joker character in leads after him, his character completely changed how people saw him. And it honestly made the Joker, I don't know, like a sensation. People loved him as much as they loved Batman. Actually, when that movie came out in 2008, I remember very, very vividly dressing up as the Joker, his version of it. And yeah, that was my Halloween costume that year. Also, I'm in Colorado, and a lot of you guys may know that's when the Aurora shooting happened. And that was at a theater which was showing a midnight release of The Dark Knight. And on top of that, Heath was gone by the release of the film. So there was tons of speculation that the reason that this happened to him was because he had completely gone off the rails and lost himself to this Joker character. That he literally was keeping this diary and was losing himself to this idea of who the Joker was, this darkness. You can only imagine what that kind of press does for a movie like that. Well, that kind of press leads to $1 billion in sales for the Dark Knight movie. Absolutely insane. So we've got the press pushing this narrative. We've got the newspapers telling us that it was some sort of OD on substances. He had 6+ different painkillers and all these different prescriptions laying around. And so we're being told to believe that maybe it was a self-exit. We're not really sure what happened. Things are just strange. We've got Mary-Kate Olsen involved somehow. Of course, no family members ever find these people. It's always them being found by some housekeeper or masseuse or some random person, some personal assistant, somebody like that. So what is even going on here? Well, let's start from the beginning. Heath Andrew Ledger was born on April 4th, 1979, to parents Kim Ledger and Sally Ledger. His dad was an engineer, and his mom was a French teacher, and they lived in Perth, Australia. So if you've ever wondered where his accent comes from, he's Australian. His parents named him after Heathcliff from the Wuthering Heights book. I think the fact that his parents named him after a character in a book shows that they're a little more intellectual. They read, obviously, but they seem like the kind of parents that would definitely foster any sort of creative outlet that Heath would want to try. And at 10 years old, he was in a Peter Pan play at school, and that's where he got his first real taste of acting and being on the stage. And he seemed to really love it. And on top of that, he was really good at sports. He played hockey. He also played chess. So Heath seemed like a fairly well-rounded young man. He attended Guildford Grammar School in Perth, Australia. From what I understand about schools in Australia, they have like kindergarten all the way through grade 12. I don't know if they call it that or if they call it 12th grade like us. But it's like one school that he goes to for the entire duration. And this school in particular had an emphasis on like an acting, theater, stage performance program. So it seemed perfect for him, just foster that creative outlet. Heath had gotten so serious about his acting career that him and a best friend named Trevor decided to move out to Sydney so that they could work on finding good acting roles and really furthering their acting career. And it worked. He was picked up for a couple different TV series. One's called Sweat, where he plays this cyclist who was training at some sports academy. And then he got his real breakthrough role, at least in the Australia TV scene, in a show called Roar, where he plays a Celtic prince who is fighting off these Roman invaders. Gives me real hard, like, Xena warrior princess vibes, if you ask me. But this would be a really big part of his career because this role is what would lead him to really attaining that goal that he had of getting into the American cinema. Now, part of the reason he got any sort of American TV exposure was because this series didn't just run in Australia, it also aired on Fox in America as well. So he got a little bit of exposure that way. And when they had a casting scout coming down to Australia to kind of scout around for some new talent for an upcoming role they had for this teen comedy drama movie that they were making, Heath was definitely one of the ones at the top of the list. They'd already seen some of his stuff from this TV show Roar. And in the Sydney, Australia area, he was actually getting a little bit of credit and people were starting to recognize him. And of course, he loved Heath when he got down there. He got to meet him, kind of see what his skills looked like. He got to watch him perform and he was just in love. He was like, yeah, this is the guy. So he invited him back for an audition. And some of you may know this, some of you may not, but the audition he invited him back for was for 10 Things I Hate About You. If you're like me and you love that movie, it just gives it even more sentimental value knowing that it's the movie that brought Heath Ledger over to American cinema to where we now have him in so many great films today. Of course, he nailed the audition and he was cast as Patrick Verona in 10 Things I Hate About You. And if you haven't seen that movie, you should definitely go watch it. And just a little fun fact, my girl and I took a trip to my buddy's wedding in Seattle, and on our way up there, we figured what's a cool thing to do. And so we wanted to check out all the different sites of the places they filmed 10 Things I Hate About You because it was filmed there. So we went and checked out Stadium High School. The view from there is amazing. We got to check out like the oil, I can't remember what it's called, like oil or gas park or something. up on our tour of 10 Things I Hate About You. It's got all the old gas pipe stuff that they had a film at, or a scene at. We got to check out the troll under the bridge that they were walking around. It was so cool to see all these different spots from the movie, especially the high school, because those steps that he like runs down are crazy steep. And I was like, whoa, the fact that he did that is super impressive. We also got to go look at the house that Julia Stiles lived in. If you're ever in the Seattle area, definitely a cool way to check out the city. So it was kind of cool to see all that stuff. Now, from the second that Heath was out on his own with his buddy Trevor, living in Sydney, Australia, trying to get an acting gig, he was already dabbling in different drugs, different substances here and there. But there's not a whole lot known, really. There's not a whole lot to say about him having a serious problem at this point. Obviously, him being thrust into the American film scene, it's definitely going to be a lot more available. And it's something that he's going to at least have to be more cautious of, or is going to get deeper into. In fact, the information about Heath Ledger and any substances that he was doing is all speculated on. There's tons of different theories and stories out there. There's people who claim that he was addicted to black tar, and that's what led to him abusing opioids later on in life. There's people who say that he didn't really do anything except for use the devil's lettuce on a daily basis. And there's other people that are just like, I don't really know. We didn't realize that he even had a problem. And so there's just so many different mixed feelings and thoughts and theories about really his extent of his substance use. I think the fact that there isn't anything very well known leads to the conclusion that he probably didn't have a real bad substance abuse problem. That's something that kind of shows itself whether you want it to or not. And people are going to know. Some people are better about hiding it than others, but those people haven't gotten super far deep into it, at least in my experience. The only real account I was able to find of someone directly saying that they saw him doing anything was a young lady named Rebecca White. She's the personal assistant to Naomi Campbell, and she's also a makeup artist. She specifically says that she saw Heath Ledger sniffing the coffee table a lot and taking dancing pills a lot in the early 2000s. There's nobody else that says this. There's no corroboration of these facts. This is just something she says. Whether she's trustworthy or believable or not, I don't really know. But she says it openly in an article, so she's putting it out in the public. She seems pretty serious about it, trying to push the fact that he had some problem. She also goes on to say that that was part of the reason why he wasn't sleeping towards the end. So, I mean, it's all speculation. We really don't know one way or the other. But we do know, especially from all the different stories I've talked about in the past, these poor celebrities, when they're thrust into this world of fame and being in the spotlight and being around all these different drugs and things, it's very easy for them to get sucked into it and for them to get sucked into these addictions, especially when it's around them all the time. They're overworked and they're needing to take something to just keep them going. The industry is like a machine, and sometimes in order to feed the machine, you have to get a little help. But obviously, 10 Things I Hate About You was a massive success, and from there, his career just skyrocketed. He was in a movie called Two Hands. He was in Lords of Dogtown. He was in The Patriot. He was in one of my favorites, which is A Knight's Tale. That movie is so good. The jousting and all that, just so much fun. We've got the Renaissance Festival here in Colorado, so it's just one of those things that, I don't know, jousting's always been super interesting to me. But what really thrust him to Oscar nomination status was his role as Ennis Del Mar in Brokeback Mountain. And I remember when that movie came out, it was super controversial, and I'm sure you guys all know why. It was a great movie, phenomenal performance, both him and Jake Gyllenhaal, two of my favorite actors too in one movie, and it was a great movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. But people could see that he's not just this heartthrob actor that you have to put in this role and, you know, glamorize him as this heartthrob. He can play serious roles, he can cross boundaries, he can do things that are controversial, and he was very outspoken in promoting this movie. He was very outspoken against people who thought it was a bad idea.
This is disgusting.
Oh. Well, I don't know. I think I think it's a real shame. I think it's immature, for one. Really immature, but I think it's an incredible shame that people go out of their way to discuss or to voice their disgust, I should say, or negative opinions about the way two people wish to love one another. I mean, come on. I mean, at least voice your opinions on how two people show hate and violence and anger towards each other. Isn't that more important? I think so. So I don't know, and it doesn't really concern me. I think it's a shame, but I also feel that I also feel like it'll surprise people. It's not particularly a story. I mean, it's obviously about two men in love, and it's obviously gay themed, and it's very easily labeled. But unfortunately, people are very quick in life to label something that they're uncomfortable with. The pure fact of it is it transcends a label. It's human. It's a story of two human beings, two souls that are in love. It's like, get over the fact that there's two men. That's the point. The movie is not a story about an epidemic or a virus or something that can be cured in hospital. We're showing that love between two men is just as infectious and emotional and strong and pure as it is with sexual love. And if you can't understand that, then just don't go see the movie. It's okay. You know, we don't care. It's like, deal with it in your own private life. Don't voice it out, you know? It's like, we don't want to know, and it's really boring and old and whatever, you know? But we're very proud of it, and I think it's transcended that, you know? And so, you know, that.
Full support of that. That's freaking amazing. I think that movie, I think Heath Ledger's support of that movie, and I think just the controversy over the movie in general, I think it was a huge turning point for the whole Pride movement, in my opinion. That's just what I think. But this is when things get way more serious for Heath, because people start taking him seriously as an actor. And he starts landing roles like he did in the movie I'm Not There, playing Bob Dylan. He landed his role as the Joker in The Dark Knight, which was a pretty big deal. I mean, for him to play the Joker, he's not necessarily the first person I would think of to play the Joker character. And yet, did he do an amazing job? Hell yes, he did. And there's so many things circulating online saying that Heath Ledger was driven from exhaustion from playing the Joker on The Dark Knight. He lost himself to the Joker character. He went crazy because he was too engulfed in the character, and his research and his techniques were so serious that he lost himself. And that's why he ended up passing away. And everybody kind of thinks that The Dark Knight was his last movie, especially since it was released after he was passed away in 2008. But that was not his last film. He released one film after that, and that's actually when he passed away, was during the filming of this movie. And if you haven't seen it, it is such a good movie. It's a weird movie. It's a pretty intensely deep movie, and I highly recommend it. It's called The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. And Heath unfortunately passed away, I think, like a third of the way through filming. And then they had to pick up filming with 3 other people to kind of fill in the gaps. And so that's why you see Johnny Depp, Jude Law, and Colin Farrell filling in as these different adaptations or different, I guess, versions of the same character that are all Heath Ledger's original character. And since he passed during the making of this film, they dedicated this film to him. I highly recommend it. Definitely go watch it. It's free on Roku TV right now. Now, the director and the producers and everyone that was working with Heath on this film said that, yes, he was definitely tired and exhausted from the filming that they were doing for that movie, but he wasn't necessarily overly, cooked from the whole Joker experience in The Dark Knight. He definitely said that it was a lot of work and it was something that he had to put a lot of effort into, but he was a happy guy. He was not off the rails, and he was also acting in another role. And if you see the movie, you'll see he does an amazing job. He's not off the rails at all, and it's a completely different character.
I think there's a misconception that Heath was in quite a dark place when he was making The Dark Knight. Yeah, exactly. You were prepping Parnassus with him when he was on the set of that film. Can you tell us a little bit about the stories that he told you about making that movie?
Well, he would come back from shooting when he was here in London, and he was giggling the whole time. He couldn't believe what he got away with, is what it was about. He said, this is extraordinary. They can't touch me. Because I'm the Joker. And in scenes where he's supposed to be being, tortured or whatever, he said, they can't get at me. He said Aaron Eckhart was going crazy because Aaron couldn't match him. He tried to go there and be nastier. He said, no, you can't get me. I'm just the Joker. I'm free and loose. And I've never seen somebody come back from a day's shooting more giggly that this was fun. It wasn't, and that's what's so weird, that they thought it was a dark place. No, as the Joker, You've got power over everybody. So you realize in those interrogation scenes, they couldn't do a thing to me. I was free. And the ideas of some of the stuff, he just loved it. It kind of, in a strange way, it felt like Johnny on Fear and Loathing. So you got a really solid base you're working with, and now you just explode. But no, the way the press, see again, it's stories, and they try to stick you into a story. And the story is the tortured guy, he's on drugs, he's all this, and that's how he died. It's not that at all. I'm not going to tell you the real story, but the real story is this, there were things going on that were making him just wearing him out more than anything on Parnassus. He would come at work in the morning having to deal with what was going on with lawyers and all sorts of shit.
I am being embezzled from by this monstrous ring of accountants, estate planners, and lawyers who are mercilessly slandering me and trying to kill my career, and I believe murder me in order to gain control of my royalties.
What was going on with lawyers and all sorts of shit. With lawyers and all sorts of shit. He'd come in the morning just exhausted. And by the end of the day, he was just like this again. Because the work was what it was about, and he was so good. He was utterly generous to everybody. I mean, it's one of the great losses. Heath would have been whatever. I mean, Brando wouldn't have been close to him, I think, by the end of it, yeah.
So these theories that he just kind of went crazy and was the Joker and just lost it and went off the deep end, they're not true. So why are all these rumors circulating? Probably to boost this movie up, to get them ultra sales. And we'll come back to Dr. Parnassus because honestly, there's some weird stuff going on in this movie that we got to check out. Before we get into that, I wanted to talk about what actually happened to Heath because like I mentioned before, he passed away during the filming of this movie. Now in October of 2007, Heath had freshly broken up with his most recent girlfriend. They'd been dating since 2005. Her name's Michelle Williams. She's also an actress, and she was on the film Brokeback Mountain. It's actually where they met. And the two of them went on to have a daughter together, and at this point in 2007, she was 2 years old. Her name's Matilda. And with this breakup happening just 5 months before he's passed away, it leads a lot of people to wonder if maybe this breakup caused him to spiral out of control, maybe caused him to fall into some deep depression. Others speculate that he decided to stop using the drugs he was using because he was worried about losing custody of his daughter. All these different things start coming out because of this breakup. And with it being 5 months prior to him passing away, it makes sense that people would speculate so hard on what happened and what role it played in ultimately what happened to Heath. Filming for The Dark Knight had finished up in 2007, and he was now working on the Dr. Parnassus film in late 2007, going into 2008. He was finishing up filming that they were doing in London, and before they were headed to Vancouver for the next round of filming, they had a quick break, and he actually went back to his house, or his apartment, I should say, in New York. Everybody on the set of Dr. Parnassus recalls that Heath got really sick, and towards the end of it, he had what they would call as walking pneumonia. And if you guys follow my channel, you know that pneumonia is a huge trigger word for me. To confirm this, there's a video that's floating around. This video is supposedly Heath Ledger on the weekend prior to what happened to him. And this is actually them filming over in London. Somebody who lived nearby saw that they were filming and caught some cool video of him. It's supposedly the last video that was taken of him. And this video, she says that she could hear him coughing. He had to keep a hot water bottle on his chest. It definitely sounds like he had the signs and symptoms of pneumonia. This video was reported to have been taken over the weekend prior, and she says that they were filming on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And so Heath would have been returned home by either January 20th or January 21st back in his New York City apartment. Not much is known until January 22nd at about 1 p.m. This is when Teresa Solomon, his housekeeper, arrives at his New York City Soho apartment just to do her normal thing. She comes through, takes care of the house, makes sure everything's good. And she says that at 1 p.m. when she came into the house, she noticed that Heath was in his bed. He was covered halfway with a sheet, sounded like he was still sleeping because she says that he was, quote, snoring. Allegedly, there's a note in the house that says there's going to be a masseuse coming by at 3 p.m., and that is a scheduled appointment that Heath had with this massage therapist. So at about 2:45, this massage therapist shows up. Her name's Diana Wolozin. When she shows up, She doesn't see Heath right away, so she talks with the housekeeper for a bit. The housekeeper tells her, like, yo, he's still asleep, sorry. And after about 10 or 15 minutes of there still no being signs of any sort of activity from his bedroom, they figure maybe they'll go in there and just start setting up her equipment. Maybe that would wake him up. So she goes in, she brings in her massage table into his bedroom, starts setting up her massage table. And this is where things get murky. Heath, the whole time, completely unresponsive, not moving, not doing anything. Finally, she realizes, like, this is weird. Why isn't he waking up to come over here? And, like, we have this appointment at 3. It's now past 3 already. So she goes over. She starts shaking him, saying, Heath, wake up, wake up. Of course, Diana is hysterical. She was supposed to be giving this guy a massage. Now he's unresponsive. I would be hysterical too. But the first thing I would do is I would reach for my phone, my own personal cell phone, and dial 911. What Diana did was she reached for Heath's cell phone, which was apparently just laying near him, and she decides to call a known contact. And all the reports say that basically she was either on speed dial, which that's not a thing on new phones. Like, is that a thing? People use speed dial anymore? Like, no. It was just a contact in his phone, and they say that she was a mutual contact between Diana, Heath, and Mary-Kate. They all knew each other somehow. But she decides to call Mary-Kate Olsen. First call goes through, but nobody answers. So instead of calling 911 at this point, she calls Mary-Kate again, a second time. Mary-Kate answers and she says, I'm freaking out. I don't know what to do. Heath is unresponsive right now. Like, what do I do? She says, I'm going to send my security team. Just sit tight. And then she hangs up the phone. After that, she realizes, like, oh my gosh, I think he's gone. Like, I really think he's gone. So she calls Mary-Kate back a third time to tell her, like, yo, I think he's gone. Seriously, what do we do? I think he's gone. And she says, I've already sent my guys. Don't worry, they'll be there in a minute. And then she hangs up again.
In watching this Heath Ledger story unfold, a story came out today that his masseuse, who apparently is the woman who found him, called Mary-Kate Olsen first to say that she found him and what to do. And does that seem a little peculiar?
The masseuse did that?
The masseuse called Mary-Kate Olsen.
Maybe she
what I thought was very interesting, and then Mary-Kate Olsen said she would send over a private security team to handle the situation. So, like, is this something that is...
I mean, why didn't she call 911?
Right, that she didn't say 911, but that she would have a security team come over and handle it.
And maybe did the masseuse work with both of them? Is that why she thought, okay, this is the closest person I can get in touch with?
I just thought, who do you call first when something like this is happening?
I think 911 would be a good answer.
But I remember seeing on the news, they said one of the last number that was dialed in his cell phone was Mary-Kate Olsen. So,
okay, I know, but still, 911 when someone is passed out.
You know, maybe because of the situation. Who knows? We don't know.
Out. Please don't call Mary-Kate Olsen.
At this point, Diana finally decides to call 911. And this call isn't made until 3:26, nearly 30 minutes after she found Heath unresponsive in the first place. Medical team actually arrives fairly quickly at about 3:33, and by 3:36, he's already pronounced as being gone. In fact, they think that he'd been gone for quite a while, which contradicts the statement made by the housekeeper that she got there at 1 p.m. and he was actually still snoring and just sleeping in his bed. Very curious that these facts aren't lining up. Now, I know you're real curious. Did Mary-Kate Olsen's security guys ever show up? Yes, they did. They showed up at roughly the same time as the EMTs arrived, before the police arrived. And what these guys were doing there, what these guys' purpose was in being there, I don't know. Now, one of the things that I found interesting in a lot of the different reports that I kept reading through was just yet again, like they do in most of the cases prior to this that I've talked about, they start talking about how these pills were everywhere. He had 6 different types of pain medication and all these different prescription medications around him. He must have been so addicted and so far gone, and it must have been the Joker role. And there's just all this media coverage and all of these stories being spewed out there, and everybody just has this wild understanding of who Heath Ledger was at that point, what he was into, how deep he was in his addiction issues. And it's just got everybody like, we don't know what to believe. But what they legitimately found in his room were 6 different pill bottles. All of them prescription bottles, all of them prescribed to him. 2 of them were for anxiety, 2 of them were for insomnia, and 2 of them were for pain. It doesn't seem like a crazy excessive amount. He was noted as having trouble sleeping, And a lot of different reports say that during the filming of The Dark Knight and during the filming of Dr. Parnassus that he was just not able to sleep. And it was one of those things that was really driving him crazy, that he could not sleep. And so he was taking this Ambien and these other different sleep medications to try and help him sleep. He had the pain medication because in Brokeback Mountain, he had to do some rougher scenes, and I guess he had hurt his back. And so he had been prescribed these medications for a little while to help with his back pain. And then he had these anti-anxiety medications to kind of help him with his anxieties. And if you see him in a lot of different interviews, I watched a ton of different interviews with him. He's always really kind of like fidgety. He seems really uncomfortable. He does seem like he has a very anxious energy about him.
I would imagine, like, as research, though, for this movie, does the director, does he, like, say, I want you to listen to some of this particular era of his music?
Yeah, Todd, I presented us all with a CD that had a selection of songs that particularly pertained to the era and the story that we were telling, and along with that, he also gave us like a scrapbook with imagery of how he was that represented kind of the way he was going to shoot each story. Like Charlotte and I were kind of captured within a Godard-esque.
Probably just regular prescriptions for anxiety. So where everybody's getting all this crazy amounts of substances and he must have just been so far gone in his substance abuse, it's all kind of weird and speculative. The other weird thing they found in the room was a rolled up $20 bill with some white powdery substance on it. But when they tested that substance, it did not come back as any sort of illicit, illegal substance. So what substance was it? That's what I want to know. Could this have been something that was just planted there by these security guys that came over from Mary-Kate Olsen's? Or was it something else? What was going on with this $20 bill? Such a weird piece of the puzzle. And who are these security guys anyways? And who's this masseuse? I want to talk about this masseuse first. Diana Wolozin. Before this whole incident, no information really about her. She doesn't have a website for her massage therapy stuff. There's no known licenses or really anything about this chick at all. Post Heath Ledger's passing, the only thing you can really find about her is news coming out about Heath Ledger's passing and how she was involved. This chick is kind of a ghost. The only other thing I was really able to find about her was that following all of this, it comes to light that she was not a licensed therapist in the state of New York. In fact, she lived in New Jersey, but she also wasn't a licensed therapist in the state of New Jersey either. She's not a licensed massage therapist at all. So it made me want to do some digging and figure out who is this chick, because if you ask me, just like a lot of my previous stories, it's giving me handler vibes. So I was able to pull up a personal Truth Finder profile for her and found literally nothing. Pretty much nothing exists on there. She doesn't have any licenses, proving that she's not licensed as a massage therapist and never has been. And I also wasn't able to find any sort of businesses under her name that would have led me to believe that she had a massage therapy business. The only other thing I was able to find is that she might have other aliases based on different names. So it helped me to look for her on Facebook using these other names because Wolozin doesn't pop up anything. But I searched for Diana Lee Parker, which is another known alias, maybe like a maiden name or something, I'm not really sure. I couldn't figure out exactly where the names come from based on all the relatives and people that she may know. It was hard to figure out. But anyways, I was able to find this lady, Diana Lee Parker, on Facebook, and then between doing some pretty serious comparisons between the known photos of Diana Wolozin and this Diana Lee Parker on Facebook, I think that they're pretty close. I mean, if you look at the bulby nose, she's got the rounded out chin, the same like crease, indentation, kind of aging marks on her cheek. And the one thing that was really stood out to me was her tooth, this one wonky tooth that she has on the side. It sticks out a little more than the others. It's got a unique shape. It's a very unique tooth. This Diana Lee Parker has the same tooth. So I think this is the same lady. And speaking of being a ghost, I was able to find this picture, one of the few pictures she has on her profile. There's really not much to this profile at all, but she is promoting this Ghost Light project. And the Ghost Light project is essentially like a protest or like a movement of theater and actor type people. And I guess the ghost light thing is what you leave on. You leave on a ghost light when people aren't on the stage or like acting actively on there. And so it's this ghost light performers strike almost. And this happened, I believe, in 2020. Basically, this leads me to believe that she is either an actress or somehow involved in theater or film or writing, directing. She's somehow involved with the entertainment industry, obviously. So was this lady an actress? Was she hired by Mary-Kate Olsen to do what she did and go in and find the scene the way she did and speak her lines to the press and say what she said? Gives me Handler vibes. According to the police, Mary-Kate Olsen was dating Heath Ledger for 3 months up till that point. It's not widely talked about, it's widely speculated on, but according to the official police report, they say that Mary-Kate Olsen and Heath Ledger were actively in a dating kind of a relationship. And that's why a lot of people speculate that Diana actually called Mary-Kate first, was because she knew that they were in a relationship and she wanted to know how to best handle this in a discreet way. What if Heath needed help? What if he could have been resuscitated? What if it wasn't just him being gone? It sounds like she was almost too sure of things to then call Mary-Kate and maybe act like she was freaking out. I'm not really sure. Plus, I was never able to find these 911 phone calls. They're just gone. They're not on the internet anymore. Was she really a masseuse? Clearly not. She's not licensed. Was she something else? Was she a handler? And that just fueled my fire wanting to dig more into Mary-Kate Olsen and these 3 security guys that she dispatched out to Heath Ledger's flat. It's just so weird. Now, at the time of Heath's passing, Mary-Kate was actually in California, so she wasn't even in the New York area at the time. When Diana called her, she quickly dispatched 3 security guys from her own personal security team to go assist with the situation. What that means, I don't know. Those guys showed up pretty quickly. In fact, they showed up at the same time as the paramedics. So they showed up fairly quickly after Mary-Kate made that phone call. This would give them roughly 3 to 5 minutes to alter the scene or do whatever they have to do or whatever they were sent to do before police actually show up. And paramedics, they're going to be preoccupied with trying to actually resuscitate Heath and figure out if he's okay. So it'd be very easy to get past these guys who are working on him and alter the scene because they don't care about the scene. They just care about this guy, what's going on with him, what can we do to help. Now, these security guys, they work for a company called Dual Star, which is actually Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen's company that they've had since they were little girls to manage their whole career. And so these guys are just hired security for that company. They were dispatched pretty quickly, and we don't really know the identities of all 3 of them. Police say that they were very cooperative when the police finally showed up and wanted to question them, the masseuse, and the housekeeper. But the one thing that I was able to find that I found very interesting was that one of the guys who showed up, one of these bodyguard security guys, his name is Dale Ayrton. Not only was Dale one of the 3 security guys that Mary-Kate Olsen sent to Heath Ledger's apartment, but fast forward 4 years, and Dale's getting arrested for his involvement in a sex trafficking ring in the New York area. Once he gets arrested, he actually name drops Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen and their company Dual Star. What? The twins are never questioned, and honestly, nothing really comes out of this. It's kind of weird. In a very similar fashion, Mary-Kate refuses to cooperate with police because they're obviously trying to figure out, like, why was Mary-Kate called in this whole situation instead of us? So they've got questions, but she doesn't want to answer them. In fact, she contacts a lawyer and she asks for immunity before speaking about anything at all. What? That's fishy, right? You don't ask for immunity unless you did something that you need immunity from, right?
New developments to report this morning in the investigation into the death of actor Heath Ledger. Investigators want to talk to his friend, actress Mary-Kate Olsen, but they say so far she's refusing to cooperate.
Deserves a better class of criminal.
The Joker was the last role Heath Ledger completed before his death on January 22nd in this Manhattan apartment building. Investigators still have questions, and they want answers from his friend, actress Mary-Kate Olsen. A federal investigator says Olsen's lawyer has twice refused their request for an interview, and she wants immunity before she speaks to the DEA. Officials concluded Ledger's death was caused by an accidental overdose of painkillers, sleeping pills, anti-anxiety medication, and other prescriptions, but they still want to know where he got the drugs.
kill the Batman.
Officials do want to interview Olsen in person. Just yesterday, her attorney released a statement saying, in part, Miss Olsen does not know the source of the drugs Mr. Ledger consumed.
Now, this one simple fact has led to tons of speculation, ranging literally from her being the one that supplied him with all these drugs, to it being her apartment, to her being directly involved somehow. There's all kinds of speculation. But like I mentioned before, all of the prescriptions were in Heath's name. He didn't live in Mary-Kate's apartment. Honestly, she really didn't have anything to hide from, so it's really strange that she would request immunity in this situation. Unless there was something bigger at play here that she needed immunity from if it was uncovered, which obviously it didn't get uncovered. And the Olsen twins are kind of an enigma. They're super reclusive. People don't really know much about them or what their deal is, and that's probably for a reason. They literally have been in the spotlight since they were 6 months old. They grew up on TV. They've never known what it's like to not be famous. And for them to have been involved in the industry for that long and not be corrupted or not be tainted in some way, I wouldn't believe it. I just couldn't. In fact, there's tons of speculation that Bob Saget might have had something to do with the trauma that these two girls experienced.
Full House. You're working at CBS, I believe, doing the morning show.
Yes.
They decide that you should part ways, and something happens. What goes on?
A friend of mine, my manager, at the time, Brad Gray, told me that Jeff Franklin, who produced Full House, wanted me to still play Danny Tanner. And they had another person cast in it, but they recast it, which is I have a little guilt still for. And I flew back to LA, which was good because at the time I had a wife and a child, so I needed a job. And Full House was something that just happened. And we did this pilot, and it got picked up by ABC.
Did you expect the success that you found with Full House?
No, I knew it was something special. I committed to it 100%. I'm an actor, so I went in and did it and loved the kids, loved the kids, loved the kids, loved the kids as much as I could. At the time I had a 1-year-old, and the youngest person on the show was 1 year old. And the other kids, Jody was 4 and Candace Cameron Bure was 9 when it started. So I kind of lived that life and had my own 3 daughters. By the time Full House had ended, I had 3 daughters.
So is there a room on the set where you would go in order to be the filthy mouth individual? Because, of course, we can't say most of the words that are in this book, but you were able to deal with it on the set where that was also not allowed.
I was a bit manic on the set, and I was also, even when there's kids, like I'm doing book signings, I'm doing one at the 92nd Street Y tonight, and it's difficult if there's kids there. I do stop myself because I am a dad. It's a conflicted thing. So I was on good behavior, but sometimes I did some inappropriate acts.
All right. America's Funniest Home Videos.
Right.
Yeah, did you think that was going to be the success it was?
Actually, it was a special, and it beat 60 Minutes.
Right.
And I watched the tape of people just getting hit in the groin.
Which fits very nicely with much of the book.
It does.
Yeah.
The book is...
there are a lot of comparative details in there.
It's about being down under a lot, and it's people getting hurt. It was... people liked it. It was kind of like silent film, and it became Yahoo. Yahoo. You can cut this, right?
YouTube.
It became Google.
It became Google. Well, in your dreams.
Can I have your number to text you?
Not a chance.
And I mean, the Olsen twins do have quite a few ties to a lot of these different celebrities who have passed away under these weird circumstances. Bob Saget being one of them. And they really took a huge step back from acting almost completely in 2006 when they started this new company called The Row, which is their new clothing line. So they were likely operating in the same network and same circles as Kate Spade was. Think about that. But these girls are super reclusive. They don't have any posts on social media, really. They're not in the public spotlight as much anymore. They never smile in any of their photos. They just seem really very reclusive. Very much trying to stay away from the public eye, just enjoying their wealth and operating their company from behind closed doors, really. But one of their rare red carpet appearances actually comes in 2018 at the Child Mind Institute Gala. And the interesting thing I found about this is that they were seated at the exact same table as Bill and Hillary Clinton. Now, you have to have pretty close connections to be seated at the same table as some other people, I would imagine, because otherwise they're going to put politicians and like-minded people at the same table. So it led me to believe that they had more connections than we know about with the Clintons.
No one tells the president. No one tells the president. No one tells the president what to do. No one tells the president not to run. No one says there's no dessert until that speech is done. No one says the press is coming clean behind their ears unless they want to have a timeout for the next 4 years. No one tells the president. No one tells the president. No one tells the president what to do. She'll change all the rules. The kids will run the schools. She'll be on the side of girls and boys. She'll fix all the laws. She'll be like Santa Claus, and her cabinet will overflow with toys.
Which also leads me to believe that they might have something to do with this dark underbelly of the entertainment world, of the political world, of everything. And just like Isaac Cappy was talking about with the Olsen Twins, it seems nearly impossible for them to have been in the industry for as long as they have been, since basically 1986 when they were born, and not have come out of it traumatized or a part of it somehow, especially because they're still successful. They're still operating in the same networks. But with this in mind, I wanted to bring us back to the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. This would be Heath's last film. This movie is very much satanic. There's a lot of occult, ritualistic meanings and symbolism in the movie. And the movie itself is literally about multiple deals being made with the devil. So it's a very occulty movie. In the very first scenes of the movie, you can see the all-seeing eye on his little stage for the Imaginarium. And it's also in some of the rolling B-roll of this mythical land of the Imaginarium. You can see a bunch of different symbols, but especially the all-seeing eye. When we first get introduced to Heath Ledger's character, Tony Shepard, he's dangling from a rope. Looks like he's unalive. They end up having to save him from this predicament that he's in. On his forehead, he has all these different occulty symbols. On one side of his head is the Greek phi symbol, and on the other end of his head is a English yo symbol. And in the center, we're not really sure what that is. It's not an actual symbol, but it kind of resembles the all-seeing eye with like a circle inside of a triangle, and it's supposed to be like a representation of the third eye. And the symbols are weird enough, but even crazier, right before they find Heath Ledger's character dangling by this rope, he pulls this card from his tarot deck, and the card that he pulls is the Hanged Man. If you look closely at this card, it's a Joker hanging upside down by one foot. Now, I want to briefly remind you guys of one of the final scenes in The Dark Knight where Batman has stringed up the Joker and leaves him essentially hanging by one foot off the edge of this building. What? Coincidence? Maybe. That's a little weird. But what if I told you that the meaning of this Hanged Man tarot card typically signifies enlightenment and sacrifice? And in the movie Dr. Parnassus, that is essentially what his character ends up being. He's a sacrifice that ends up having to be made in order to free Dr. Parnassus's daughter from the bondage of this deal that he made with the devil, because at 16 years old, his daughter then belongs to the devil. On top of the fact that it identically matches the scene from The Dark Knight. So weird. But it doesn't stop there. Throughout the course of the movie, we're led to believe that this Tony Shepard character is actually a good guy. But really, he's not. This Tony Shepard character needed money to start this children's charity, so he accepted money from these Russian mobsters, and then they end up laundering money through this charity. Sounds a little similar to what we see on a regular basis, right? But it doesn't stop there even. And though Tony's character tries to pretend like he's still a good guy and he just got swindled by these mobsters into doing this, that's not actually the truth. It comes to light eventually that he actually set up these charities so that he could harvest organs from orphans in impoverished countries and then sell them to wealthy elites in the Western countries. Tell me that doesn't sound extremely, strangely familiar. And if you don't think that this whole organ harvesting thing is a real thing, listen to what Sandra Bullock says on the Ellen DeGeneres show on TV.
Well, it's this way in which one forces through microneedling. You look like a burn victim for a day, but then it pushes.
What are you pushing into the skin, Sandra?
Sarah?
What are you pushing into the skin?
Well, you push in whatever the facialist would like to insert into your pores.
But what is it?
That came from a young person, and they somehow figured out how to extract.
It's skin from a Korean baby. Who thinks of collecting it and having it for, we'll do something with this someday.
And why didn't we come up with that?
And throughout the entire movie, these deals with the devil that are being made are all simple choices that you have to make once you enter the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. You can either choose to attain enlightenment and release all of your earthly, worldly possessions, or you can choose to go with the devil and all of your greatest wishes and dreams and desires will be fulfilled, but at a cost.
Oh, maybe this week, but you know, on the lists, they change names and, you know, quite frequently, really. I don't really pay much attention to that.
But it's a pat on the back, huh?
This week it is. But, you know, who's to say how long that's gonna last?
Well, it's lasted a long time for you. I mean, you're still out here doing these songs, you know, you're still on tour.
I do, but I don't take it for granted.
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing. I mean, I made a bargain with it, you know, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with you know, with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And on this earth, and then in a world we can't see.
And so with all this occult stuff and all these symbolic meanings, it really just brought me back to the Randy Quaid statements, where he said that there's a malignant tumor of star whackers in this industry. And for them to have him in this movie with all this symbolism, talking about things that hit so close to home, it just felt very much like there could be some strange occult series of star whackings going on. And Randy Quaid might not be as crazy as everybody wants to make him seem.
Jack, any comments on Heath Ledger's death? About what? Heath Ledger, the actor, he died tonight in New York. Overdose. He died in New York. Just found him dead a couple hours ago. I warned him.
So I don't know, you guys. Certainly a lot to think about, a lot to consider, and it gives me a lot more questions when it comes to what happened to Heath Ledger. And I'm certainly not just going to lay down and accept this official narrative that he simply overdosed on a concoction of different prescription medications, all of which he was prescribed. Was this masseuse a handler? Was Mary Kate working for this cabal in the entertainment world? What do you guys think? Drop it in the comments. But with all the weird things going on with this story and Heath Ledger's lack of a history of abuse, it just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense to me. So, I don't know. As per usual, we're leaving with more questions than answers. If there's things that I missed, feel free to drop it in the comments as well. And if you can't get enough of my Sobering Stories series, I'll put every single episode I've ever done right here. If you want to check out my Hung series because you're super curious about this rabbit hole that I'm in, I'll put that right down here. If you just like being told what to do by YouTube or pretty much anybody, if you're a power bottom or something, then this one right here. And honestly, you guys, that's the best way to support the channel. If you want to support any creators that you follow, the best possible thing you can do is to just watch multiple of their videos, especially if you binge them in succession, because that shows YouTube that we keep you on their platform for longer. So it's a free way to support the channel. And if you're enjoying the content, always drop a comment and let me know, because it helps me know what to keep covering and which direction to keep going with the channel. But if you're still sitting here listening to me talk about next videos and series and playlists, then you should probably subscribe if you don't already. But other than that, that's all I got for you guys this week. I really enjoyed diving into this one. I love Heath Ledger, and it's truly sad that he's gone. If you haven't seen 10 Things I Hate About You, watch that one. It's a great movie. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing you guys again next week for another one. And until then, stay safe, stay sober, and don't take life too seriously. Later, sobers.
Let's go.